Hello there, and welcome to the Second Life Book Club. My name is Draxtor, and today on the show, a mermaid and a centaur. Finally, our guests are taking advantage of being more than these boring humans that we have every week. Chana Porter and Katharine Duckett are here to talk about their respective debut novels. One is about alien invasions, and the other one is kind of Shakespearean fan fiction. We are here in a special venue, and we'll see a little bit more as our producer is camming around. But first, let's do some housekeeping and then introduce our guest. The book club, as you know, is every Wednesday, 12 o'clock Pacific time. The book club island is open 24/7, and we have about 200 people coming through here every single day. So show up, be kind to the noobs, and talk about books, recommend books, take recommendations. In a week, we're opening a gallery with all past guests displaying all of their works. It's very exciting. The show is produced by Strawberry Linden. Brett and Tara Linden help with marketing. Patch Linden and the Molds built the venue. Not this one, but I'll get into it in a second. Marion McCann customized the main venue. This venue is made by Solus, this whole castle. And up until I think 30 minutes ago, she decorated it with plants and all sorts of little things. And she got help from the Centaur community. Julala and Dreamsphere also put some stuff out. So thank you guys. This is super awesome. And we try to change the venue every once in a while. And you guys outdid yourself this time. Um, Oh yeah, Maureen B already says in the chat here, she needs Drax recommendations according to books he has actually read. Yes, those are the books that I tend to recommend. Um, Kralos customizes our avatars. Arduin makes animations, and of course, Silas Merlin built the sculptures around here, and he makes the extra custom avatars. The reading list is on bookshop.org. Draxter reads. Bookshop.org is kind of an anti-Amazon online retailer that recommends independent bookstores in your area. So please go to your independent bookstore or go to bookshop.org. Now it's time to welcome our guests. To my left, we have two today. To my left is Katharine Duckett, and her debut novel is Miranda in Milan, which continues William Shakespeare's The Tempest, which some say could be a retelling of the TV show Lost. you know, I don't know. I'll ask Catherine if she knows if Shakespeare traveled to the future, stole the plot, and then came back or whatever. But Catherine is a centaur, and she is here in her chair lounging. Catherine, welcome to the Second Life Book Club.
Thank you. Very, very happy to be here.
And to my right is Chana Porter. Her debut novel is The Seep, and The Seep envisions a kind of benevolent alien invasion, I would say. And it comes with a lot of perks. It enables humanity to become one with everything, but things kind of don't go as well as planned. Maybe that has to do with humanity, not with the aliens. Who knows? We'll ask her. Hannah, welcome to the Second Life Book Club.
Hello, hello, hello.
And how are you guys? This is the first question that I always ask. Your avatars, do you feel good with your avatar choice, or would you like to change it? I mean, you can't. This is a very rhetorical question. We're live on the air.
I feel great about mine. I didn't realize I had always wanted to be a centaur, but once I became one, it felt right. So,
Yeah, I would like to say that one of the questions that I get most about the Seep is, would I do one of the changes that you can get through that? And I would always say that I would be some sort of part-time mermaid. So I feel like, someone is saying in the chat that they can't hear me. Am I clear?
Oh yeah, please give us feedback in the local chat here in the room if you hear everyone. If you feel the audio is low, you can bring it up individually, but Kana is sounding good to me. You can try to bring her up. And let's see here, Hana. Yeah, you might have lost your dot. If you have issues
Really?
in world,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, the bandwidth here is stretched to the hilt. We have a full house here.
Mm,
So Hana, don't worry about it. People can watch the
okay.
YouTube stream. It's youtube.com/secondlife/live. And I was going to say, on the YouTube stream and on Twitter and on Facebook, please put your questions there. I will occasionally glance over there and incorporate your feedback and your questions into the conversation. Um, Before we get into your work, I also wanted to know, how is the COVID anxiety treating you, and get a lot of different answers here. Some people welcome the time, the solitude, and others say the solitude does not serve me well because the anxiety level is so high that all this solitude is not really making me creative at all. Take
Yeah,
it, yeah, Catherine.
I think for me it's been mixed. It's sort of up and down from day to day. I'm lucky enough to be sharing a house with my wife and a couple of friends, so at least I'm not totally isolated. But some days I feel very creative and ready to work, and some days it's much harder.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel similarly. There's a lot of beautiful things about this time. For me, this came like right smack in the middle of my like debut. So I
Mhm.
like canceled a bunch of my book tour dates and things like that. So there was definitely kind of a feeling of I thought I was coming out, and then not so much. So I have been finding that I'm loving slowing down and
Mhm.
taking more time. So I feel like I would have pushed to get another project done, and instead I'm letting things kind of be softer and slower.
And is that hard for you to because this would be hard for me. I mean, I feel sometimes I'm kind of a workaholic. I'm not sure if that's always super healthy, but you have so many ideas. Is that hard for you to make peace with the fact that you can't pursue all these ideas right now?
Well, I would say that you can pursue them all. You can pursue them all in your mind, and you can pursue them all in your notebook, and you can pursue them all talking to people that you know. And I think like the ways that we make things and the ways that we find community, like Second Life is kind of an amazing way to think about COVID time and ways that we can be in the same space. And Catherine is a very good friend of mine who I haven't been in physical space with for now going on 9 months, something like that.
Mhm.
Um,
And look at you guys
yeah,
now.
I
You are a
know.
mermaid on
Look
a
at us
rock.
now.
Yes.
I just wanted to say one thing too. I am a person who stutters. So should you hear me like cut out or say something multiple times, it's just me. It's like the way that my body speaks rather than something with the audio.
Thank you, Hannah. And I also wanted to say that you guys are not only friends, you are also involved together in the Octavia Project, which I will also talk about. It's super exciting what you guys are doing with the
Mm-hmm.
Octavia Project. And
Yes.
also, Catherine is also in your book. I don't know if you, Hannah, are in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy, but Catherine is only in the beginning, and then I don't know if she gets killed by the aliens or if that's going to be in the sequel. Who knows?
I'm not
Um,
gonna kill her. Jeez.
Thank you. I'm glad.
I love
so,
her. No.
so we're going back and forth a little bit today between you two,
Okay.
and we're also going to hear some reading. I would like to start with talking a little bit about the Seep, and then we'll move to Miranda and Milan. And so maybe, Hannah, if you want to put the premise here on the table,
Sure.
what is the Seep about? By the way, and people can zoom into here on the table. I think both books have exceptional covers. Last time with Joe Haldeman, we talked about covers, and that authors usually don't get a input on the covers, so it's like really hit or miss. But you got both of these covers are really awesome. I have the books displayed here on the table. But Chana, so what is The Seep about? If you can tell us a little bit the premise. I did not know if The Seep was, in the beginning, I thought The Seep was Jordan Peterson. Then I thought it was Universal Basic Income, and then I thought
Ooh.
it was, Stalin, and then I thought it was all three. But
Oh my
anyways,
goodness. Wow.
yeah, I'm a deep
Incredible.
thinker.
You are.
Chana, go ahead.
I think the premise for me grew out of this thought that I wanted to do something that kind of felt like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, so that
Yes.
yeah, which I particularly love the 1970s Donald Sutherland movie, but something that is a totally other form of life that we cannot communicate with. We cannot sit down and have a chat. So really kind of leaning into the horror and body horror tropes of that. And then the twist kind of being that it's not bad. So I wanted to play with this thought that like really great sweeping change, like what would make it so that we're not constantly mired in the same problems that I feel like we've been cyclically talking about for a long time, which I think when you boil it down really comes down to like, should we take care of one another? Which I think, yes, we need to take care of one another. And that's the only way that we can, in the long term, take care of ourselves and take care of our planet. So kind of what the premise or the drug, the like consciousness shift of what the seep does is that it makes every single person on the planet at the same time go, oh, it's insane not to take care of one another. And it's insane to poison our homes to save or make money. So
this is I'm sorry to jump in here. This is a very positive thing. And Elfbiter in the chat says invasion of silence. And I just want to jump in because the reason why I said tongue-in-cheek Jordan Peterson was there's in the beginning is a little interaction here where the seep gives a prescription to deal with an emotional problem. And I think you wrote something like the seep has the emotional intelligence of a motivational poster. And so the aliens, so the seep, collectively, they are trying their best, but it's not really clear if they completely understand the complexity of humans. And then again, it's unclear if humans understand the opportunity that lies in front of them, right? That's kind of what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
There's an immense opportunity to completely restructure the planet and it's like, humans are a little blind maybe when something hits them like that, something good.
Yeah, and I think we're just we are scared of change, even good change, and that's, I think, what we're starting to feel in COVID times, in climate change, and how those things relate to one another. Like we live in a more precarious time. And I think that there's so much opportunity in that. And I wanted partially to write this book as a way to show a lot of change being not a wholly frightening thing. But at the same time, I think conflict can and will come because that is an essential part of being alive. So I really wanted to tease out this idea of what if this benevolent but totally other, beings that don't have differentiated bodies, beings that don't have differentiated consciousness, beings that have no concept of not just like race or gender, but like a past. They don't conceive of linear time. So trying to talk about something like grief to a being that doesn't have linear time, I think is just a really fascinating thought. So I loved like teasing out those conflicts, what they might be when this like benevolent thing did come and did make people's lives much, much better, and they're still mad about it.
Well, but I mean, the humans, well, some of them make very good points because some of the protagonists say, that the hurt. You are putting all these questions out there. Is it necessary for an artist, for example, to suffer? Is that the path to good art? Can good art even be made if you don't suffer, if you have everything, if everything is totally fine and dandy? And another quote there is when somebody says people don't read, they just merge with a tree or something. I don't remember the exact quote, but
Right.
basically you can merge with everything and you can feel their emotions, right? And so the discussion is, why would I read in order to get into the mind of another character or something, or an issue, if I can just sort of merge with that being and get that sort of intravenously pushed into me. So what the seep has to offer is pretty compelling, but as we can see in your book, that some people use it to, I don't know, just to completely like hedonistically entertain themselves to death, kind of, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think like
Yeah, go ahead.
something that I liked having to explore is that I do think that suffering in its kind of most basic state, which is like either loss or the anticipation of loss, that's still real in this new benevolent reality because things change. Like you can't have a completely stagnant, crystallized reality where like nothing ever changes and no one ever goes away from you. So it's really a book about loss and grief in this new time,
The
and kind of
oppressive,
the like beauty of that.
and also the oppressiveness of always being in the present, like you just said.
Right.
Here in the chat, Adi says, this is kind of cool what Adi says here in the chat: imaginary suffering will also do the trick. I believe that's pretty good. So in the world of the Seep, all
Truly,
you need is a
truly.
VR headset, right? I mean, you get like pain infused with the VR headset. I want to bring Katharine in here. So it's sorry, Centaur. I would like to ask you, Katharine, what would you ask Chana? I know you guys are joined at the hips. Do mermaid have hips? So you
Yeah.
probably have discussed this. I mean, this was your novel took a long time to write. I mean, not a long. I mean, I don't want to say
Yeah.
that it took too long, but that's actually a question I have on my sheet here. What's the normal time? Do you think it took you long? Do you think that's normal? We had authors here who feel their output is not high enough. And those are also questions, because we have authors that push stuff out, and I could imagine that could make you feel very inadequate if you don't have that output. And some of these authors are constantly on social media telling like, oh, I just wrote 3 books this year. But Katharine, what
Right.
would you like to ask Chana about her work?
About the process or the work itself,
The work,
or
anything.
I think and Hannah, stop me if you feel this is getting too spoilery, because I
Okay.
don't want to do that. But in the book, there's obviously the compound. Can I talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Please.
yes.
So there is a segment of the population that is displeased with the transformation of this world, and has chosen a different way of life. And I was always just really curious how you came up with that, what compelled you about that, and also how you fleshed out that part of the society, because it does make sense in a way. I think no matter what happens in the world, there's always a certain segment that's going to push back or go a different way. But I just really enjoyed how you did that in the Seep. So I'd love to hear the seeds of how that came about.
Yeah. What I love about that is I feel like it's pretty tropey. It feels pretty Star Trek-y, or like something that we've seen, people that defiantly go to live in their own way. And I wrote this book. I started it in 2012, so it was long for me. And what I do is I like write a draft and then I go back. I write a draft and then I go back. I put it in the drawer for 2 or 3 months and then I go back. So I write other things in the same time, which I think is a really nice approach. But at the start, the like many drafts were, the compound was kind of this like neocon, like it was really militarized, and I had this whole like escape montage with like black boots on the ground and that kind of stuff. And it just felt very like conservative. And then at some point, I thought about it for enough time that I decided to make the people in the compound just like normal people that I felt like I could understand and relate to. And I feel like it was less of a kind of charged, like tropey choice, but I felt like there was more emotional things to tease out. So I liked this idea of having it be like, I don't know, this is a very scary thing, having these beings come to the planet that don't have mouths and can't speak. And it makes sense to be in a compound.
Yes, let me jump in here, because I think that this is so interesting, because I felt I would be in that compound probably. And just for folks,
yeah?
yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would feel completely comfortable with what the Seep has to offer, especially the way people, people respond to it. I mean, you're free to do whatever with the gift that they're giving you, but you
Right.
portray a lot of people like that I roll my eyes at. Like they go like, hey, let's do these parties, let's do that kind of thing. That's just not my thing, right? I mean,
Right.
that doesn't mean that the compound, which are the people that reject what the Seep has to offer, would maybe I would get tired of these guys too after 2 days and just merge with a tree or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
But that's really brilliant how you do this in the book, because it leaves it open. I feel the book is such a wonderful, and I see it here in the local chat as well. People go back and forth here like they never do during the live show about these different takes on how would I deal with this situation. I think that shows that a lot happens in people's heads with your story. I mean, the interpretation, what would I do in that situation? You leave that very open. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some work,
Thank you.
Wayamao said some work takes years. Yeah, okay, she's responding to this. But some people talk about here the pain of the work. When you write things, are you writing short stories in between the novel? I'm sorry, I'm switching here back and forth. I was going to
Oh yeah,
say,
that's a good question.
the,
So when I switched between things, I started writing novels because I was a very frustrated playwright. And I was writing more plays than I could ever find anyone who wanted to produce them. And so I started to write novels thinking that, the way that the play is kind of like a blueprint for something, like you need a lot of other people, I could write a novel and, maybe it would never get published, but I could still like give it to someone or self publish it. And that would, like, my communication would be complete. So yeah. But I still write plays.
we'll get into these other parts of your work. You are a playwright and the Octavia Project. I'm reminding myself not to forget what I
Oh
actually
yeah.
wanted to. I actually wanted to comment that it's not surprising that people argue over the thing about pain being a requirement
Mm.
to create good work. But I'm going to throw it to Catherine now because my job is to give equal airtime. Sometimes in debates there is a moderator can make or break a debate, as we have seen in the past. But thankfully, I have two wonderful guests on my stage, and they're both not planning to insult me or the other guest. This is the Second Life Book Club with Chana Porter and Katharine Duckett. And Katharine, um, I would like to ask you to give us a little bit of the premise of Miranda in Milan. And what is so cool, you made me go back and read Shakespeare, The Tempest, which is a sort of continuation of The Tempest, and I really enjoyed it.
Nope.
I do like Shakespeare. I'm not obsessed with Shakespeare, and and I'll ask you this later. I also empathize a lot with high school students who are forced to read Shakespeare,
Yes.
and that may, because we discuss this at the book club often, this has turned off folks from enjoying reading. And in Germany, there's an equivalent to some authors who I think are very important as an adult, but I think it's actually age inappropriate to introduce that to young readers because the language is just very hard to get into.
Mm.
But anyway, what is Miranda in Milan all about?
Sure. Well, Miranda and Milan, in a way, is a bit of a response to what you just talked about. It was a way for me to enter into Shakespeare from a different point and see new things in his plays, because I think actually there's a lot more that we can mine from his works. They're actually works that are meant to be explored individually and reinterpreted and seen in new ways. So I wanted to do that with The Tempest, which is among, I would say, his strangest and most divisive plays. It's interesting that you read it and enjoyed it because I
I really
often,
did. And
yeah.
and actually, wait a minute. I'm gonna throw up some stills while you. Can you summarize the Tempest real quick? And as you're doing it, I'm going to throw up some slides that I got from a 2010 movie with Helen Mirren, who plays Prospero, but in a female version. Uh, so let's do this. So what quickly? So what's the Tempest all about? There's
Okay,
a
so very,
magician.
very short version. There is an exiled duke, the Duke of Milan, Prospero. After he is exiled because his brother has usurped his throne, his brother Antonio, he is sent off into the sea on a terrible raft with his daughter, Miranda, who is about 3 at the time. They wash up on this enchanted island, which is convenient because Prospero is a very gifted magician, which is part of why he lost his throne in Milan. He was more wrapped up in magic than ruling. And so he and Miranda live on this island for 12 years, almost alone. There is a previous inhabitant of the island, Caliban, and
Mhm.
there are also various spirits, including Ariel, who is Prospero uses, takes under his service to help him accomplish various tasks. And so after 12 years, a fleet of ships carrying his brother Antonio and the King of Naples, who helped bring about Prospero's downfall, and his Alonso's son and various other members of the nobility happens to be passing by the island, and Prospero creates a storm to shipwreck all of these people on the island, and that's when the Tempest takes place.
And
Uh,
conveniently, Ferdinand is comes in, and he's the first man that Miranda, who grows up on the island, it's the first man that she sees, and of course she falls in love
yes,
with him because
yeah,
she's never seen another man. I mean,
and
she's
she's
seen the
a
natives.
teenager. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hormones. Yeah, so that's the story. And at the end of the play, Prospero essentially orchestrates this whole magical show to scare his enemies and to gain back his throne. And he does at the end. He really doesn't encounter a lot of obstacle to that throughout the show. So at the end of the play, they are all reunited. Ferdinand and Miranda are to be married, and they're all headed back to Italy together.
Now, you then start your story in Milan, where Miranda now is there, and Prospero. I wanted to just briefly add that Prospero comes across as a pretty good dude. I mean, he's a magician. He's on the island, and he was wronged. The throne was taken from him. He was exiled to the island, and he just goes back to take what's his. And he's he's a control freak, but a good one in the Shakespeare story. But in your story, then some other stuff comes comes to the fore about Prospero, and he's maybe not a good guy.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think the interpretation of him as a good guy is one that he wants you to believe. In
Mhm.
the show, he speaks nearly a third of the lines, and he tells all the histories of how he has come to be here and how wronged he is and where Miranda came from. He controls that narrative. So I didn't buy it, and I think actually a lot of commentators haven't necessarily bought it over the years. But it's a feature of the play. I think Shakespeare wants you to decide for yourself how you
Mhm.
feel about Prospero.
Mhm. So you didn't buy that he was wrong, that he just plots all this stuff um to to bring back what is rightly his. But also, I mean, he brings together Miranda and Ferdinand. And I um I read the play, and then I saw online one of those actually quite neatly done animation, 5-minute animation that summarizes it. And I think in there it says that Shakespeare, Prospero is like uh, a stand-in for Shakespeare himself, sort of the mastermind, pushing the pawns on the game board and putting everything the way he wants the outcome to be.
Yeah, I think that is an apt description. The chess master. Interestingly, the thought that he is a stand-in for Shakespeare, that interpretation is a more recent one. It's really in the Restoration period that we see that becoming the accepted interpretation. So I recommend really highly Emma Smith's book, This is Shakespeare, which talks a lot about how certain accepted interpretations have become almost canon. We're just like, oh, of course, Prospero is Shakespeare. Like that's what, how
Mhm.
it was always seen and how it was meant. But actually, she digs into how if you accept that interpretation, Shakespeare doesn't actually come off necessarily looking that good.
Yep.
And Prospero actually has parallels with some of his more um, darker and more treacherous characters.
I mean, he arranges like a marriage for his daughter. It's an arranged
Yes.
marriage. He
Mm-hmm.
kills the natives of the island. He
Yep.
enslaves them. So this is
Subjugates
how I
them.
read.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what you explore in your book. I mean, it's basically, I guess, it's about colonialism in a way. I
Yes.
mean, he has there's he kills the witch on the island, and then
Yep.
he enslaves all the spirits, and it goes from there. If people don't uh don't have a connection to Shakespeare, here's a softball question: would they still enjoy your book, Catherine?
Can
Uh,
I
well,
respond to that?
ooh, yes, please do.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
please.
Please say that.
I saw a production of the Tempest, I don't know, when I was 12. And I just remember there being like a fog machine and things like that. I did not remember the play at all. And I read the book blind, and I thought it was great. Like, I really feel like you could read like a Cliff Notes and just get the general beats, but you go through it and you do it in such a elegant way that I really don't think that you need to know kind of anything about the plot before you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm. And it's also I mean it's in its pacing and in its language. It's exquisite language, Catherine. The pacing is suspenseful. There is a it's not a love triangle, but again, of course, when Miranda gets off the island, there's of course a lot more choices than the admittingly handsome Ferdinand, and
Mhm.
she goes full on. She goes after these other choices that are available, and there's also sort of a Frankenstein thing going on. But
Mhm.
I don't want to give stuff away. Do you find when I say your book is Shakespeare fan fiction, do you see this as as an insult?
No, not at all, because Shakespeare himself was basically just writing fan fiction for most of his plays. He was taking these older sources and saying, I like this, I don't like this, I'll repurpose this. So he was pretty irreverent in his approach. So I think it's actually part of a proud literary tradition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would say I'm looking through the chat here. Elfbiter says, put Shakespeare also acted in that troupe and probably wrote roles for specific actors to play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's another thread here. Thread Shakespeare also wrote for a certain troupe. Yeah, this is what Elfbiter is talking about. I wonder what Burbage as Prospero looked like.
Mm.
Elfbiter in the audience is our resident Shakespeare scholar.
Mm.
Um, yes, we are very very high-minded folks here. Actually, we're not. And my if you're just tuning in randomly on Facebook, on the Second Life page, and you go, "What is this? Why are they talking about Shakespeare?" I just want to hang out with my Avatar friends. Um, this is the Second Life Book Club every Wednesday, and my stated goal is to create a community between readers and writers, and a very inclusive community, not a community where you feel alienated or afraid that, oh yeah, I'm not well read, I shouldn't be here, or I can't chime in. So I really want to create an environment where people are not afraid to share and don't feel sort of run over by elitists or whatever you would, or snobs. um, I'm just a snob on the weekend, but let's read something. People love to hear our authors read. Who wants to go first? Ooh, nobody.
I'm happy to, if that silence means ambivalence. So
Let's go.
Catherine, now I'm sad that I didn't tell you to read your monologue from my book, but
oh
I should have
yeah.
thought
Oh,
about that.
we can do that in the post game. We have about 20 minutes, and then
I
we'll
don't
do
want
a
to put
post
her
game.
on the spot.
Oh, well, putting people on the spot. That's what we love to do. Let me change the book here on the display. And yes, Catherine, please do stand up and head on over to the front of the stage here. Don't be afraid; you won't fall off. Look at
Great.
this! Look at this centaur. The centaur
Gotta
wants to jump.
navigate a little bit. It's new with 4 legs.
Of course, and again, I've been advised to why people said, Drax, why don't you make it easier for your guests with like a sit animation in the stand? And I said, no, we love a little author falling off the stage and things like
Oh
that.
God.
That's what we live for. So what are you going to read for us, Catherine?
So I'll just go ahead and read the first few pages of the book. You're all caught up because of my summary on where the Tempest ends. So this picks up basically right after that.
One more thing. So they're coming back from the island, and the former foes, the dude who put Prospero and Miranda out on the island, uh, Alonso, they kind of made up. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Alonso is King of Naples, who helped Prospero's brother bring about his downfall, but basically just for financial reasons and because he wanted control over Milan in some way. So
Right.
he's cool with Prospero, it seems, at the end.
Nothing
And
personal, just business that I exiled you and wanted to kill you. Totally
no,
normal.
yeah, now our children are going to get married, so that's fine. The interesting thing at the end of the play is that Prospero's brother, Antonio, on the other
Hmm.
hand, is totally silent when all of this comes to light and they're having their happy reunion. So
Hmm.
you don't really know at the end of the play where he and Prospero stand. So that's some of what I play with in the
Hmm.
book.
All right.
Okay, we ready?
Yes.
Read to us.
Story time. Okay. When Miranda came to Milan, she found she was a monster. She'd been given a queen's welcome in Naples, that lovely city on the sea, but as they'd moved inland, the warm breeze had left them, and she found herself among stony-eyed strangers who refused her gaze, who seemed loath to touch her flesh. They treated her like Caliban, her ladies-in-waiting and royal relatives. They arrived in Milan on a cold gray day, and as they approached, the castle of her ancestors looked more like a prison than her rightful home. Its high ramparts stretched into the mist, leached of color by the pendulous clouds, and its black mouth gaped wide, swallowing them as their carriage passed through the gates. Miranda trembled, for she could no longer see the sky. Her whole life through, sea and sky had surrounded her, with neither in sight to give her bearings. She hardly knew where she was. Her father had vanished into the labyrinth of the castle as soon as they arrived, seizing back the rooms his usurping brother, Antonio, had taken over while Prospero was in exile, gathering his left behind books and sequestering himself in his libraries to pore over the new tomes that he demanded his servants bring him right away, the advances in alchemy that he had missed while on the island. He left her with barely a word after ordering the servants to settle Miranda into her rooms, though he had insisted that she accompany him here to see her home once more before she married Ferdinand and settled in Naples. I thought we were married, she'd said, in the carriage. He had turned to her, eyes still on the countryside out the window, and replied, "Hmm, oh, yes, but marriages of princes are contentious things, and the island where you were wed exists on no map. We'll let the Neapolitans take care of the formalities, the law. There's no hurry, now that we've returned." She did not understand what this meant. She knew nothing of law, or of marriage, or of the nuances of love, though she did her best to grasp their meanings. Her father had never spoken to her of these matters in any depth, and now, in her rightful homeland, she began to realize how much she did not know, how much she could not ask. The island they had left behind held fathomless mysteries, but it also moved to natural rhythms Miranda could observe and decipher. The animal cries that rose and fell with dawn and dusk, the changing patterns of certain leaves that signified shifts in the seasons. But she could not work out the chaotic patterns of the men and women of the mainland, and she especially could not fathom why they recoiled from her, why the ladies at her elbows hurried her so from place to place, why they made her wear a full black veil, its lacy darkness obscuring her vision like storm clouds moving over sun. Only a few weeks before, she had felt jubilant on the shores of her island. Now, her father had proclaimed to the assembled men, his clever plan complete, we will fly swift to Italy, and my Miranda will claim her birthright as a duke's daughter and take her place beside noble Ferdinand as Princess of Naples. She'd watched Ferdinand embrace his father, King Alonso, with tears of joy, for each had thought the other drowned in the storm that brought them to this strange isle, the storm her father had created. Her father had his arms around Gonzalo, the counselor from Naples who had shown them kindness many years before, giving them provisions that had seen them through their terrible journey at sea. Rightful order was restored. Their sorrow was now ended, and all was well in Milan and Naples once more. Yet her uncle Antonio's silence disquieted her. He stood outside the circle of warmth, speaking not a word as the air around him rang with laughter and glad cries. His chilly hush, she thought at first, must of course owe its cause to the exposure of his treachery. But no, she saw a shock upon his face, as though he had glimpsed some gas there on the beach, some vision that chilled him to the bone, even in the island's gentle heat. Yet it was not Prospero he looked upon with haunted, salt-burned eyes. It was her.
Wow.
Mm. Woo!
This is Katharine Duckett. Big round of applause, please. Reading from Miranda in Milan, and here you can see she's coming to, to the mainland from the island, and the freedom. This is also what is really wonderful about this book. It describes the freedom of the island, of this life. And then she goes into this very rigorous world, where at the center is basically this sort of arranged marriage that boxes her in, and you explore kind of like Chana, maybe the nature, how important nature is, or natural, or living in tune with nature is a big theme as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. Of
Beautiful.
course, we're always running out of time, and but we have a special post game. If you're watching this on YouTube, there are a few seats now free. We were completely full on the sim, so if you want to try and come in and hang out in the post game, please come in World. I think we have 2 or 3 seats left. Hannah, now it's your turn, and I will bring the Catherine can sit back. I will bring the book to you. This because you don't have to even get up from your
Oh, thank you.
yeah,
Because
of
I don't know
course.
how.
No. It's because we don't spare any expenses here
It's
at the Second Life Book Club.
true.
If we provide a rock, you're caught between a rock and a hard place. I can't change the texture of the book. Hold on. And what will you be reading
I was
for us?
just going to read the first little bit of my book, The Seep. And because we don't have a ton of time and I'd love to talk a little bit more, Catherine and I rarely get to do these things with each other. I thought maybe I would just read like a little bit.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
rest assured, we will talk about the Octavia Project. We can go over a little bit. I was just as Catherine was reading, I was fighting with the producer. I mean, these
About time.
producers, yeah, but they're constantly cracking the whip. I mean,
Yeah,
you come from theater, you know how they
it's
are.
true. It's
They're
true.
just they're always looking at the clock and the wallet, uh,
Hmm.
and not interested in creativity.
Well, I'm just going to read like the first page and you'll get a little sense, a little taste. Okay.
Okay.
Tips for throwing a dinner party at the end of the world. Relax. People may think they want to indulge, get too drunk, incapacitate themselves with weed, but truly they just want to appreciate this fragile moment while the outside world falls down. Your party should facilitate this easeful enjoyment, not lead loved ones to panic through overconsumption. Be present. And remember, you don't know what's happening in the morning. So while an orgy might very well be the perfect thing, you don't want to spend your last night on Earth trying to cajole your friends into a particular kind of revelry. Be present. Clean your apartment until it sparkles. Shower, of course, and anoint your body with fragrant oils, but then wear your most beloved sweatpants. Make a wide selection of delicious food, high in protein, complex carbohydrates, and healthy fats. Serve wine, but also a lovely selection of herbal teas. Juice spritzers in fancy goblets will allow your guests to hydrate while feeling opulent. Remember, should someone start crying, don't try to shut them down or change the subject. Be present. Eventually, the conversation will flow to other things, typically to the past and how great it was, even though we didn't know it at the time, and the future, that shimmering mercurial beast constantly breaking our hearts. And that's how the book starts.
Thank you so much, Chana. Big round of applause, please. The way you start this, and that's now with the cleaning. That's where the Jordan Peterson light came on when he said, clean your room, right? Because he's just, oh my God, don't get me started. I'm gonna do a show about this dude. How crazy! But that is so wonderful, and this also shows a little bit of the sort of dilemma, how people use this opportunity. And one of your main characters, and I said this actually when we before the show to the in-world audience, she wants to become a baby, right? Because the seep gives you the opportunity to like, what would you call it, like regression therapy in real life with the body, or
so, like, not a huge spoiler, but the main conflict that does spur a lot of the kind of quest of this book is that we follow a long-time couple, Chana and Deba, and they were with one another before this seep came, and then they live amongst this new presence for a long time. So we jump in the next kind of couple of chapters. They're around 30 when the book starts. They're around 50, 55 when we get to the next part. And they've lived in this new kind of place. And Deba turns to her longtime spouse, Chana, and says, I've done as much as I can with my old pain, and I just want a new chance. I want to be a baby again. Mm-hmm. So she's not saying that she wants to keep her mind. She would like to have a completely blank slate.
Blank slate, not only body, also
regrow.
mind.
Yeah.
This is amazing, because this also really reminded me of Second Life, because there are people who are playing young people here. I reported on that over the years, and it's absolutely fascinating. And if you look at it with an open mind, it's illuminating. But we have little time left. What do you guys want to talk about? I want to address the Octavia Project, because I think what you guys are doing there is absolutely amazing. Chana, give us what is the Octavia Project?
So the Octavia Project is a completely free summer institute, and it's for Brooklyn teenagers, particularly girls, trans youth, non-binary youth. And it's really a program built out of this thought that science fiction and fantasy is a space where we can imagine beyond our current problems. So it's really giving power to this idea that young people contain really the imaginations and the fresh new thinking that we need if we are going to survive as a culture. So we like use the lens of sci-fi to think critically about city planning, about governments, about the way things are made, and allowing this like world building lens to be like everything that we think of as normal has been structures that we've agreed to collectively, so we could make a new choice.
Hmm. So it focuses on widening the imagination and really imagine new uh, avenues for structures, political structures, and this is so fascinating because I say this all the time that really, if the biggest threat that we have as a human species, I think, is the lack of imagination, and
Oof,
that we
yes.
sort of believe, especially with economic systems, that this is how it is, that it's sort of almost sort of a law of physics, and
Mm-hmm.
as you're talking, and please continue, I'm throwing up screenshots that I took from your website. The website is octaviaproject.org, and you did a summer program. I'm assuming all online now because
Yeah.
of COVID. And so I'm just going to throw up a few stills here of participants. They were writing things, they were doing drawings, they were doing little videos.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that go in this sort of online? What did people do?
You
What
know,
did
we
people
were
submit?
really scared because this was our sixth summer, and the only one that we've ever had virtual. So the cool part is that you didn't have to be close by to come, which was really great. Uh, there's a lot that does occur like in the physical space of like bonding, um,
Yeah.
that we weren't sure what it would be like online. But you know, teenagers are incredibly adaptable, and we had a wonderful, wonderful summer. And part of what we do too is we have mostly women of color who are professionals, either architects or city planners or novelists or artists. They come through and they like give little master classes as a way to model and show like greater possibilities. So we still had like our full roster of people who come through every summer. N.K. Jemisin came through, just won a MacArthur.
Sci-fi writer, yes, she's a
Yeah,
MacArthur fellow now. Hmm.
she comes every summer, and I think you know, we had to sort of wiggle and adapt, but our teachers are just incredibly smart and kind. And we had a girl this summer who I probably shouldn't call her a girl anymore. She's grown up. She's done the Octavia Project 4 times, and now she's in college, and she came back this summer and taught. It
Hmm.
was like, you know, I cried.
Yeah, of course. So again, this is for kids. Now I'm gonna call them kids too, but
Yeah,
14 to 18
yeah.
is the target, and this is really cool. And like I said, I'm throwing up some slides here of some of the participants, and there is one participant who uh, sort of wrote a kind of a little comic about depression here, and here's someone who is writing a story, and here is someone who is making a video, and some drawings. And I would imagine that with this stuff, but it's interesting what you say. I thought like that this stuff is it's really crucial actually to be there in the physical realm, and as much as an enthusiast about Second Life and virtual worlds I am,
Right.
I acknowledge that for young folks it's super important also um to be there in the physical realm. Maybe for younger kids more so. It's really harder for like really young kids, this whole COVID thing, than maybe for
Yeah.
teenagers. I'm not sure. um I'm moving myself to the side because I'm blocking the screen. Okay, we're officially out of time, but I'm going to press on for a few more minutes because I'm the host of this program. I'm going to hijack my own program. Catherine, what would you like to add to the Octavia Project, which, by the way, of course, is named after Octavia Butler, one of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite authors. Um, just read the Parable of the Sower. Maybe that's a little bit too depressing because it's too real.
Mm.
Maybe Kindred is better. Oh wait, that's also pretty depressing. But yeah, Catherine, what is the
Shout
Octavia
out for
Project?
Lilith's Brood.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think Hannah really summarized it well. I've been an advisory board member with the Octavia Project for a few years. So we have a really great board of people who have backgrounds in nonprofits and education and the arts who help guide the program and get it what it needs. But it's just been fantastic to watch it grow. And I bring in part my experience working in publishing and science fiction fantasy publishing, and really just want to make sure that we can bring that to the next generation and get new voices and new people in there to help shape the narratives that we'll all be reading.
Science fiction authors to the rescue, I
Mm-hmm. It's
suppose.
true.
Yeah.
Wow. See, now you stumped me. Catherine, did you work in live broadcasting because you did like such good clock? Sometimes you have a caller on a live show, and then you tell the caller, well, we have 30 seconds left. Please be quick. And most callers, if you have noticed on a call-in show, most last callers, they go on forever. But you were very succinct. I appreciate it. Um, yeah, this is the Second Life Book Club with Katharine Duckett and Chana Porter, and we're now going over to a post game, very exclusive VIP hangout in the room for the people in the room. If you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, you can attempt to go in. I think the region has a few open seats. Um, Thank you guys so much for coming. It's been a wonderful hour with you guys. I encourage everyone to pick up the Seep and Miranda in Milan. We haven't even gotten to Catherine's previous job as a marketing executive because I have a question here where I said, did you totally like plot out your book because you know you're a marketing expert and you were just totally like plotting it with some sort of AI algorithm that makes it sell. I don't know if that even exists. Jeff
Not so
Bezos probably
much.
has that. You don't know. I mean, Amazon might have something like that.
That's true.
Big thanks to Strawberry, who runs the show and the camera. Big thanks to Brett and Tara from Linden Lab, Patch Linden, and of course, Marianne McCann. This venue was built and customized and decorated by Solus and also the Center Community, Cholala, and Dreamsphere. Stick around in World. We're going to talk a little bit more. And let's see who is coming next week. Oh, next week is Cory Doctorow for real.
Ooh.
Cory Doctorow for yes, he. It's unbelievable. I had to pay a lot of money to get him here, and his rider is he demands very good accommodations and 5 meals per day, so it was pricey. But Linden Lab shares no expense. Cory Doctorow, his new book is Attack Surface. It actually came out yesterday. And if you want to prepare for this show, if you don't know who Cory Doctorow is, I would recommend Little Brother, which is a YA novel from 2010. And Attack Surface is the third book in the series. Big thanks to the audience. Super big thanks. It's awesome to see everybody here. Makes me feel really good to see that people read and are interested in these types of discussions. All right, I'll see you guys next week, 12 o'clock Pacific time at the Second Life Book Club.